So the brief from Stuart for the cinema was a room that they could use as much to spend time with the family, playing, watching TV or playing on the games consoles, as it was to watch movies. So it was a multi-purpose room really, and used the existing space that there was, which had its own set of challenges. It was an existing room in the house, and they had to work within the rest of the house. So it wasn't a dedicated room that we could use to start from scratch and have carte blanche on. It was something we had to take into account as well when we were doing the original design brief. Well, there's various different elements that I guess makes a media room slightly different to what we call a dedicated cinema room. So there's the people who are actually using the room. So there may be younger children using the room as opposed to a cinema room, which is probably more often dedicated to sort of an adult space. So it had to be children friendly. It had to be a space where it wasn't always going to be dark. When you've got friends around playing on your Xbox or PS3 or Wii. It's a space that needs to be light and airy or fun to be in, as well as pitch black when it's used as a proper dedicated cinema. Well, one of the major issues, which is never great in a cinema room, is the fact that there was two French windows, and not only did we have one big sheet of glass, we had two big sheets of glass to contend with. So obviously there's a lot of natural light coming into the room, and Stuart was keen to keep those, because it was part of an existing house, so there's reasons to keep those. So we had to work out how it was best to treat those. Equally, there was two radiators in the room, and that was the only form of heating, so we had to maintain the heating within the room. One of which was on the screen wall, and the designs for the AV equipment already dictated that we had to look to move those. And the second one was towards the rear of the room, but they both had surface-mounted pipes as well, so we had to create a design that allowed us to hide those or chisel those into the walls. The problems we had with the wall coverings was obviously what was there was just a painted wall. In fact, there was some nice plaster cornicing detail as well. So we quickly got rid of that, and that didn't work at all with the design we were looking to achieve. We quickly decided that there was good use of the fabric walling for several reasons. On the front wall, obviously there's some quite large speakers, which in a family room you don't necessarily want on view. So there's three speakers and two subwoofers hidden behind the fabric walling. So it immediately gives you a more discreet solution. And we quickly decided to move that around the rest of the room as well. One, to incorporate Stuart's rather large DVD collection. So in the side wall we actually built those two side walls out and created some shelving to house the DVDs, as well as the surround speakers. And on the rear walls it gave us some space to hide the radiator that was on the rear wall, and also allowed us to have some panels that were removable for ease of future-proofing cabling, so we can run cables at a later date should we need to, without having to chisel back into the walls and things. So it gave us quite a flexible approach to the whole design. And finally, one of the things that changed during the actual build was we were going to light up the ceiling, and the ceiling wasn't the greatest of ceilings, so we could have plastered that, but really for the same price we also decided to fabric the ceiling as well, just to give it one look across the entire room, so that hid any indiscrepancies in the ceiling and gave a flat wash for the light to go across. The wall coverings that we've obviously used in the room in the fabric is something that can be done themselves. As somebody who's used to reasonable level of DIY skill, if you're used to carpentry or that, so you will be used to it. So there's cutting of the track and the fixing of the track, and then just a reasonable amount of strength to actually physically get the fabric into the track. You certainly don't need to go to the gym after you've done a room. So it is something that can be done, and we can obviously give advice on that. but it's there's no particular special tools. There's one or two things, but I know other forum members have already done some and made tools themselves, so it can be done. The lighting in this room is slightly different from what you'd expect to see in a normal residential environment. It's all LED based, which is becoming more and more commonplace, but in this room in particular, the vast majority of it is RGB, red, green and blue, so we can provide a lot of different colour variation to the room. And that was something that came about quite early on in the design process. Stuart wasn't too sure exactly what colour we wanted, so we decided actually if we incorporated colour changing lights that we could actually change the colour of the room effectively by the sort of blues and greys that are in the fabric. Washing those with a coloured light, they pick up the light well, so you can almost fill the room with a blue light, a red light or a green light or any mix of those. So the lighting really shows itself in that respect from it needing to be colour changing. It's also DMX controlled, which isn't seen very much in a home environment, but it's used massively in shows and stage type productions where it's commonplace and very, very robust for that very reason. So here we're using it. We've got control via the iPad on the wall, so we can select any colour that Stuart likes depending on how his mood takes him. And it's all very simple to put together, the lighting that we use. So there's no actual need for an electrician because there's no direct mains wiring. It's all sort of plug and play, so anybody could really install that as well. The lighting system we've used here is specifically customised for Sontec. Some of the custom cables and things like that are obviously all pre-made up. But there are various other DMX controlled lighting systems out there. Some are very standalone. You use their own little remote, but here we have been able to integrate it completely with the iPad and the wider control system as well. The DMX Control that we're using to control the lights is basically a bus-based control system. So every lighting driver within the system is connected, in this case via Cat5. So there's a connection that goes around each one, and then you have a central controller. In this case it's an Ethernet to DMX controller. So we can send a command that's come from Ethernet, whether it be the iPad or a third-party controller. We can send that out over the DMX interface, which will send a command to each of the individual drivers, and each of those individual drivers will have a separate address, and we'll decide, depending on what command is sent, whether they should action that. So it allows us a very fine degree of control over each individual fitting if that's required, if each has a separate DMX address, or equally we can group those together so we can control groups of fittings in the same way. The lighting design in any of our cinema or media room designs is really at the core. It's very important because it can completely change the feel and the mood of the room as soon as you were to walk in, or the way you use the room. And obviously with the use of this room being a sort of multifunctional room, it's even more important. It's not simply just to get to your seats and sit down. Also, as well as the artificial lights, the lighting design really needs to incorporate any natural lighting. In this room we've got the two big windows, French windows, so the lighting design, when the room's not in a blacked out cinema mode, has to incorporate those during the day. So we need to make sure that's allowed for if we want to block out that, and obviously we've got the blackout blinds as well to allow for that. But as already said, with the design of the room, we talked about colours and how we can use the colour to change the effect of the room. If it had all been black in the room, that would have been very difficult to achieve. So really you've got to think about everything in unison to be able to create the effect you're looking for at an early stage. One of the challenges with creating false walls and stud walls in a cinema really is how solid they are. And that doesn't necessarily mean you need to be built out of brick or anything like that, because that's certainly not the case. When I say how solid they are, I more mean that they don't rattle, shake, or create reverberations when you're actually using the room. In some ways, you don't always want them solid, so that here there's big holes in them where we've got the fabric panels, as we've allowed to, if needed, put any acoustic treatment behind them. But certainly where there's any voids, and you've got voids and you create voids and you skin that with plasterboard or skin it with plywood, then you should always try and pack those with rock wool. Otherwise, you're effectively creating a drum, and the sound within the room is going to cause us some issues. So whenever you're building something like that and there is any voids, if in doubt, pack it with some rock wool. With regards to acoustic treatments, in this room there's actually little additional acoustic treatment, and that's an important thing to bear in mind. Often when people go about designing their cinema, they often think, right, I've got to pack in a load of acoustical treatment, and if you're not careful, that can be just as damaging as it can be, can be good. And there's obviously times when you do want to put acoustic treatments in there, but equally, a totally dead room is going to sound just as bad, if not worse. One of the things we would have probably liked to have done in this room was treat the first reflection points. Unfortunately, one of those is the access into the room, it's the door, and the second one's the glass window at the side. So that was out from the start. That said, the blind being down when the room's in use across the French window does make does take the edge off that somewhat. So it wasn't a major problem. Otherwise, we may have had to look to add some things to the door and things like that. So one of the things we did here was, because we could, that was easy. That would have been retrofit, rather than trying to design something complex into it for that may not been a problem to start off with. We left that, and it was something that we could add at a later date if needed. One of the things we've done here as well is, because we've got the DVD storage, that falls all the way around the surround speakers, so effectively we've got a natural diffuser on two of the side walls around there, where you'd look to put some diffusive panels anyway. So there's no need necessarily to go out and buy some diffusive panels, things like books, bookshelves, as long as they're not going to rattle when you're actually giving the room some welly. You can use some natural diffusive elements of those as well. So here we've used those to good effect. So while there's ability in this room to add and tweak the acoustics as required, again, because we've got the fabric on the wall, that will in itself act as the slight acoustic properties of that. Even though it's acoustically absorbent, it does mean we can put some more acoustics behind it, acoustic treatment, if we need to. We've used blackout blinds in this room, and there's a couple of things that's thrown up. One is the fact that the original ones we were sent from the manufacturers weren't actually particularly blackout, so they were more of a dim out, which wasn't ideal. So they have been swapped during the process. So we've now got a true blackout. But we also built our own channels into the reveals of the windows, because a blackout blind is only as good as where it joins the wall. So if there's a streak of light running down the side, it can almost just be as off-putting, if not more off-putting, than a whole wash of light coming through. So we have built channels in that those blinds run in, and we chose to do that with with our own design rather than buying some of the off-the-shelf channels, because some of the aluminium extrusions and things that are provided can look a bit cheap and not particularly go with in a nice home decor. Probably fine in an office or in a meeting room environment, but not necessarily something you want in your home. When we were originally designing the room, we were looking at ways of hiding the technology, and the projector being one of the elements of technology. So really, everything else was hidden in the room, and we didn't want to put the projector on show as such. We wanted to sort of tuck it away. There wasn't an option to put it in the room next door, because that would have been sitting in the main living room, and equally they didn't want the projector on show in the living room. So we devised a way of trying to disguise that into the room, and equally, because the room is being used for games consoles and things like that, there's the paraphernalia that comes with those, so some extra storage space in the room is always going to be a benefit. So we came up with the concept of this almost airline style bulkhead that runs the full length of the room, and through some sort of clever designs and rounding that off, we were able to make that the same width and height of the full width of the room. So it contains the projector in the centre, and also it contains the surround left and the rear surround left and right speakers in that as well. And because that's got the acoustically transparent fabric cloth base that's used in the rest of the room, that matches in nicely. You don't actually see the speakers. Obviously you get the effects of those, so actually canted in slightly into the room, so we're able to build all that into the cupboard space while still giving some additional storage space as well. And each of those has got a separate opening door, so you can easily access them to put spare things like games and games consoles into it. I always have a slight smile on my face when what I call bringing the room to life, when you first fire up primarily the audio system, although I do like to see the video on the room, but any cinema we do, I think when you fire up the audio system, it feels like you're giving the room a heartbeat, and you can always see, it's always nice to see the enjoyment on the client's face when that happens as well. They can see actually all this hard work and all this cabling, which is all in the background, you don't see the end result of. Actually firing up and hearing it or seeing the room for the first time is a nice feeling. I think some of the major successes in this room are really making it one integrated room. None of the technology is really on show, although it's all quite high-end, powerful technology that's in there. There's some serious sets of speakers, serious projectors, amplification, and audio processing. It's very, dare I say, wife-friendly. So there's no big bits of kit on show. Equally, you're quite happy to have the kids in this room and have them playing around without causing any damage or anything like that. But if you want to sit down there and watch a film, you're going to be seriously impressed by the image quality and the sound quality, and you're going to enjoy showing it off to your friends. So I think that's quite a nice all-round approach to a cinema. Certainly in most nice sized residential houses where you're not necessarily looking for a dedicated room, and I think almost a room like this is going to get used a lot more, and you're going to get more enjoyment out of anyway. I think one of the things of advice that I would look to give the public and forum members out there was that often the first place that people will look is at the kit. They'll specify the kit, and you'll often find that they've got a very set idea about, certainly people who enjoy their their AV equipment and cinema equipment, they'll have a very specified idea about what they want, what kit they want, and they'll actually do the complete reverse of really what they should do, and they'll force kit into a room which might not be quite right because they've seen it, they've heard it at a trade show or a demonstration, think, yeah, I've got to have that, but it might not be the right kit for the room. We talked about projectors and throw ratios and things like that. Now, a certain projector might not actually be the right kit for the room, so really you should start from the complete opposite of that. And so when you're sat in the room, when it's going, what performance and what kind of things do you want out of that, and then take the more engineering, calculated approach and work that back, and then say, actually, does that kit, what kit do I need to create that performance, whether that be audio kit or video kit, and that could be completely different to some of the views that you will have at an early stage. Equally, kit can be upgraded, so don't necessarily have to go out and buy all the best kit now. You can look at say what's important, what you want to use, perhaps reusing some of the existing kit. It's more difficult in actual fact if you're going to do the room to do what we've done now and do a fully integrated room after the so Stuart in this scenario could easily change the projector. At any stage, it's probably half an hour's job to take that out and put it back in. Equally, if there was a new speakers came out or new amplification and processing that came out, that wouldn't be too difficult a job to change. But having to rebuild all the bookshelves in and rebuild all the bulkhead and whatever would actually be quite a big job. So in some respects, it's more important to think, how long are you going to have this room? What do you want? And do I want to look at the kit or do I want to look at the entire package? And people often forget about the wider package at a cinema. I'll have inquiries where people say, I've thought about a budget of X for the kit, but I've actually made no allowance whatsoever for the wider fit out of the room, which, so to make a room really work is an important part of it.